Yes, welcome back. Sports Bit, Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, Monday, July 17th, big game breakdown. Blue Jays and Red Sox, Cubs and Braves. Deep dive. We continue the AFC South with Jacksonville. I think we're going to disagree on this team. All right, good to be back, Teddy. You haven't missed anything. The Dodgers never lose.
Great to be back, Pauly. Of course, when it comes to All-Star break time, I got to get out of Vegas. I don't know what you're doing in Las Vegas this week, last week. You got to be out of town right now. I'm at my sister's house outside Boston. I get to go to Fenway this week. Good to take a little break from the normal routine, but not on Sportsbet, man. 1 week off, that's enough. I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's give the folks what they want with some bad beats, bad bets, and bad for the books.
All right, you have a good time. You'll like that ballpark. Diamondbacks and Braves over 9 fell late. This is a vicious beat because it was on 8 in the 4th inning, Teddy.
Oh, my God. And nothing the rest of the way. We're talking about the D-backs bullpen's been okay. The Braves bullpen hasn't really been that good. I don't trust either pen. And we're talking about two lineups that have been crushing the ball for most of the. I mean, Atlanta's been hot. Arizona, well, not that coming out of the break, but not two teams you expect to be scoreless over the last 5 innings. Tough beat if you had the over in that one.
All right, a lot of bad bets. How about the Reds? They took money against the Nationals. Bettors never had a chance in that one. Nats led 4-0 in the second. Homer Bailey had nothing.
Yeah, I mean, this game was what, 4-0 in the second. It was 9-2 by the fifth. And Bailey sitting on a 10.12 ERA since his return to the big league. 6 home runs allowed in just 21.1 innings of work. And boy, that Nats offense really rolling again on Sunday. Daniel Murphy, 3 hits, 2 homers, 5 ribbies. The guy's hitting .348 with 16 home runs. The Mets haven't been the same team since he left town. And look at this graphic, Pauly. How good has this Nats offense been? This is WAR, wins over replacement. Harper, Rendon, Zimmerman, Murphy, I should say. These are all before Sunday. But if those 4 were an entire team, only the Astros would rate better in all of MLB.
What'd you think of them getting Madsen and Doolittle to help the worst bullpen in baseball?
It's got to help, you know. And we've been talking. If you've been watching SportsBit regularly, we were talking about them talking with Oakland. About a month ago? Finally, the Nats do something to bolster that pen. They needed it in the worst way. And Doolittle and Madsen, hey, they're 2 live arms for a bullpen that basically had none in recent weeks.
Another bad bet. 20-cent move on the Giants. They went off $1.35 against the Padres. So Samardzija was lit up.
Oh yeah, I mean a lot of the sharps. I shouldn't say a lot of sharps, but there's certainly been an element of sharp money that has been backing Jeff Samardzija start after start. His stuff has been far better than his results. But he got hit hard again on Sunday. Down 4-0 in the first, 7-0 in the third. But the advanced metric stats love this guy. The control was on. 8 strikeouts, no walks. He's up to 135 strikeouts to 14 walks for the season. That is the best ratio in all of baseball. So watch. They're going to bet Samardzija again next time out. You can count on it. Info you get here first on SportsBit.
All right, couple bad for the books. 20-cent move on the Cubs. They went off $1.60 favorite against the Orioles. They sweep Baltimore, and Quintana was great in his first start since the trade. I didn't like the trade because they gave up their 2 number 1 prospects, but he throws a gem, and the Cubs sweep the Orioles.
Well, yeah. I mean, what's the best way for a team to make a new pitcher smile? You give him a 4-0 lead in the second inning. Look at this tweet from ESPN Stats and Info. Quintana, the second pitcher since 1900. Since 1900 to strike out 10-plus in consecutive games for different teams. The only other pitcher to do it was the big unit, Randy Johnson, back in 1998. Quintana's quote, "I just tried to hit my spots. This one is special for me. First one with the Cubs. I'm really happy." And, of course, the Cubs are happy, too, coming out of the break, blowing out the Orioles, 27-11 in the 3 games. This is an interesting quote. Catcher Wilson Contreras, who just was on fire all series, 8 for 14, had the first 4-hit game of his career. His quote, "I think we are back. We are back to where we were last year." We'll talk about the Cubs more when it comes to Big Game Breakdown.
All right, and every night, too, with the Dodgers. They sweep the Marlins 64-29, 35 games over for the first time since 1977. They have 11 sweeps. They've won 29-33. Best record through this many games since 1955, Teddy. They are a freight train.
29-4 in their last 33 ball games. That's as good as it gets in baseball. I mean, it genuinely is. The best run that I can think of, off the top of your head, you think of the Tigers in '84 going 35-5 out of the gate. You know, this team's 29-4 right now in their last 33. But what does this mean going forward? It looks like the Dodgers and the Astros are on a collision course to meet in the World Series. They have been the two best teams over the first 4 months of the season. But from a value standpoint, I'm not looking to step in front of LA right now, but boy, I'm not looking to back this team on a game-in, game-out basis. They've been so hot for so long, a lot of the value is gone.
Well, we'll see if Kershaw hits $4 coming up on Tuesday against the Whites. Well, he's on the road, so I thought they were at home. I take that back. But in any event, they've won his last 13 starts as well. Up next, big game breakdown. We'll start with the ESPN game, the Blue Jays and the Red Sox, and we'll get to the Jacksonville Jaguars in the deep dive on SportsBit. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBit, Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, big game breakdown in a second. Where are you going to be, Teddy, coming up?
Costa Rica, man. Hall of Fame game, in fact, is the day that I'm flying down there. But we got to talk about the conference. www.ifbc.live. What does that stand for? International Football Betting Conference. The first one hosted by SBR. They're having it at the Sheraton, guys. It's going to be a classy joint. SBR is doing a ton for the guests that are coming. It's August 4th and 5th. Space filling up fast. Check it out right now. We're talking about me, Gil Alexander from the VSiN Network, Clay Travis from Fox Sports, Matthew Holt from Cantor Gaming. We got my buddy Gabe Morency's coming down now. Mark Lawrence, true gentleman of sports handicappers. The list of contributors keeps growing and growing. Visit the website, www.ifbc.live, for all the details. It's coming up. Hope to see you guys there.
All right, big game breakdown, powered by BetOnline. BetOnline, more than just an online betting platform. They boast a focus on the player approach and built their reputation on offering clients nothing but the best from cutting-edge technology, enticing promotions, and the latest sports betting odds. ESPN game, it's the Blue Jays against the Red Sox, Stroman against Rodriguez, Boston $1.15, 9.5 the total. Boston was up to 24 straight scoreless innings against the Yankees before Betts hit a home run to give them the lead, and they held on to win 3-0. They struggled against CeCe, who shut them out for 14 innings. What do you think, Teddy, about this? It's what, a 3-game lead now. Tampa Bay won't go away, and they should have. The Kimbrel had that big blown save, and the Yankees won in extras on Saturday.
Well, yeah, what'd they go? 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position on Saturday in that 16-inning game against the Yankees. They didn't get many clutch hits on Friday either. Only scored 3 on Sunday. But we know what this lineup is capable of, despite their frustrations on the offensive end since the All-Star break. And, of course, you know, they've got Eduardo Rodriguez on the hill. Rodriguez, one of these guys, he's got great stuff to prevent contact. Really, the advanced metric numbers, he's striking batters out. The swinging strike percentage is great. But the ground ball rate, not so good. He relies on his high fastball. And a lefty that's trying to live up in the strike zone at Fenway, well, guys like that will not. There's problems. Let's put it this way. Of 136 pitchers to have thrown at least 60 innings of work this season, he ranks number 128 in ground ball rate. What happens when you have too many fly balls? Real simple. Look at the graphic. Home runs per 9. On the road, he's given up less than 1 per 9 innings. At Fenway, it's 1.41. That's the weakness of Eduardo Rodriguez, despite his nasty stuff.
Then we have Stroman, one of the best ground ball pitchers in the sport. Look at this graphic. Ground ball leaders the last 2 years. Stroman number 1, Keuchel number 2. That's a minimum of 250 innings. But he gets punished when he misses up in the zone. As you see here, MLB home run fly ball percentage, the worst the last 2 years. He's 5th. Pineda worse than Garcia, Corbin, Miley, and Stroman. That also is a minimum of 250 innings as well. Do you expect more of the same tonight? Will these Red Sox bats come alive?
Well, that's the question. I mean, really, when you look at what Boston has done coming out of the break, they haven't been able to buy a clutch hit. And literally, I mean, they have not been able to buy a clutch hit. Toronto, on the other hand, their offense has gotten going a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if this, well, let's not give it away, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see a little bit more offense than we've seen from the Red Sox and a little bit more than we've seen from the Jays in this matchup.
Number 2, Cubs and the Braves, sponsored by BetOnline. The BetOnline number, Cubbies are $1.50 on the road, 9 the total, over minus 125. It's Leicester against Tehran. Cubbies outscored the Orioles 27-11 this weekend sweep. First outing for Lester. You were leaving for Boston. That horror show, the game before the All-Star break, where Lester in the first inning faced 12 batters, 53 pitches, 10 runs, 6 were unearned. I mean, that was a horror show for the Cubs, and that's been the big problem this year has been the starting pitching. Teddy, he was 19-5 with a 2.44 last year. This year he's 5-6 with a 4.25. Hendricks has been hurt. Lackey not getting it done. Arrieta struggling. That's why Theo felt they had to go out and get some pitching to help out.
And I don't disagree with that assessment. I know that you don't like the deal because they traded away prospects, but when you have a roster that's capable of winning a World Series this year, you trade away the prospects. You make the move to try to win another title. But, that you talk about a disaster for Lester. Look, the guy got 2 outs and gave up 10 runs. That's not a good ratio. It got so bad for the Pirates, the bat boy wanted to sneak out there and get a couple of swings against John Lester in that game. And, of course, Lester, after that Pirates loss, it pretty much speaks for itself. It's embarrassing. If I had a reason, it would have been fixed out there. John Lester right now is not a hurler that I trust.
I'm with you on that one. Sad but true. Then you have Tehran, whose win-loss has been respectable, but the ERA drop mirrors Lester. Last year had a 3.21. This year he has a 4.79. Now this is shocking, and it's bizarre. The new ballpark giving him all kinds of issues. Look at this graphic. This year he's 1-6 at home with a 7.58 ERA. He's 6-0 on the road with a 2.53. And you see the home runs per 9 innings as well, way up at home. And look at the mile per hour, the average fastball. 93, it's throwing 93.9 is average fastball in 2011. This year it's 91.7. What's the deal? He's 26, Teddy.
Yeah, to be honest, there is clearly trouble when it comes to velocity for Julio Tehran. There's clearly a sharp road dichotomy, and it's clearly in his head at this stage. When we talk about a guy that's averaging 2.5 home runs per game allowed, or 2.5 home runs per 9 innings allowed, and has an ERA of 7.5 at home. You look at the command numbers way down from where they were a season ago. The velocity significantly down from where it was a few years back. The walks up, the strikeouts down. But, and this is a big but, he has turned it around over the last couple of starts. 13 innings of work, only 2 runs allowed, only 7 hits allowed, 13 strikeouts. And look, he had a shutout at Oakland into the 7th, and then threw 7 shutout innings at Washington. That's the only time the Nats have been shut out all season long. And it's a Braves team with some positive momentum right now. They had a 3-game sweep over the D-backs this past weekend. They're sitting at 500 right now. And, of course, we say it's not realistic. They're 6 games out of the wild card. If they're in the AL, they'll only be 2.5 games out of the wild card. They'd be right where Kansas City is right now. They have identical records. This Atlanta team's been a nice little under-the-radar moneymaker for their backers. But, of course, if we believe the Contreras quote from the opening segment of this show, talking about how the Cubs are back, baby, off that big series against Baltimore, I don't know that I'm excited about betting against either one of these teams in this ballgame.
All right, up next, we continue with the AFC South. It's Jacksonville Jaguars. Their win total 6.5. And we'll get to the play of the day on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping it up on SportsBit, Betting Insight today at Pauly Howard, at Teddy_Covers on Twitter. Jacksonville up today. Win total 6.5, over -130. Last year, disaster. We'll tell you, big reason why in a second. 3-13 straight up, 7-8-1 ATS, 10-6 to the over. 2-8 in games decided by 7 points or less. Mainstream stats, 13 takeaways, which was 31st. 29 giveaways, tied for 4th. Horrendous, -16 margin. 5.1 yards per play near the bottom, 4.2 yards per rush. Average, 6.3 yards per pass, bottom 5. 34 sacks allowed, near the league average. What do you have on the defense, Teddy, which was actually did a better job late in the year?
Sure. The numbers defensively for the Jacksonville Jaguars last year, in my mind, are somewhat misleading. All right, they finished allowing only 5 yards per play. That's number 4 in the NFL. But the key stat, obviously you talked about right at the top with the turnovers. They had so many turnovers that led to so many short fields for their opponents. They didn't have to gain so many yards against the Jags. The other stats may be a little bit more realistic about this team. They had an 88.5 opponent's QB rating. That's right around the NFL average. They had 33 sacks. That's right near the NFL average, slightly below. And 3.8 yards per rush allowed. Again, that's a top quartile, but another one that could be misleading. There were a number of teams that were running out the clock in the second half against the Jags instead of trying to beat them. But you're also talking about a team that went 2-8 in games decided by a touchdown or less. So it wasn't just a situation where the opponents were running out the clock in the second half. They lost a lot of close games last year, and most of it was turnovers.
Yeah, and Blake Bortles, unbelievable. He has more pick sixes in his career than wins. Think about that. Bradley out. We knew that. Doug Marrone, the new coach. Coughlin, the new executive vice president. So now we have Greg Olson was also let go week 6 as the OC too. Is there any weapons there for Bortles to use? And of course they get Fournette in a draft. What do you think?
Sure. I mean, now we got a full year for Nathaniel Hackett to have his offense installed. He was promoted after Olson was fired mid-season, and it's the 4th different offense installed over the last 4 years. Of course, those are the 4 years that Blake Bortles will have played in the NFL. Stacks the deck against any quarterback. But, man, you got some weapons here. No question about it. You have Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns as wideouts. I'll take those guys with as legitimate downfield weapons. And let's not forget, Bortles had all those turnovers. Look at some of the defenses he faced. He faced the Chiefs and the Texans twice, the Bills, the Broncos, the Vikings, all excellent to elite defenses last year. So, I mean, it comes down to, there was some promise for Bortles in 2015. This year he's got a running game. You talk about Leonard Fournette and an offensive line. Pro Football Focus graded this offensive line as number 13 in the NFL. Nobody talks about the center, Brian Linder. He's a guy who people probably should start talking about. And if this offensive line is above average and they have a running game, all of a sudden Bortles isn't throwing pick sixes all the time and he's finding his receivers downfield.
Well, so there's most sharps like this team over. Actually, they love this team over. I mean, what do you think about them coming off a 3-13 season and trying to go 7-9 to cash the ticket?
I sure as heck wouldn't bet it the other way. Look, this team, again, we talked about the defensive stats being somewhat misleading, but their offense had the third worst average starting field position in the NFL. I love Jalen Ramsey last year. He was a legit defensive rookie of the year candidate. You look at a team that was willing to spend the free agent dollars this year. Calais Campbell, the best defensive lineman available, you could say. A.J. Bouye, the most promising cornerback, you could say. They brought in Barry Church from Dallas. This defense looks really good. They got a pass rush, with the Fowler and I'm going to butcher his name, Naguke. I apologize, but they got a pass rush. They have a secondary. They have a linebacking core. A defense that showed some signs last year might be pretty darn good this year. And a team that was looking, you look at their needs going into the draft and going into free agency, they filled every need they had. Fournette, Cam Robinson, and Smoot at the defensive end, and Westbrook from Oklahoma is one more weapon. There's a lot of things I like about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay, to the schedule. Last year, strength of schedule slightly tougher than average. This year, much weaker than last year. The AFC South plays the NFC West and the AFC North. The 2 extra games, not bad. At the Jets and the Chargers at home. I just can't back Blake Bortles, and I think it's a lot. Now, you mentioned the defense. It was supposed to be good last year, too, and it didn't work out. But I can't get past Bortles, who's been a disaster. And, again, it's alarming when you're talking more pick sixes than wins. I don't think they can go 7-9. But you kind of like this entire division, which is odd.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with liking a division. If you say, all right, hey, I like Tennessee, I like Jacksonville, certainly as 2 teams that stand out. We talked about Houston as a team that we look to make money on this season, but keeping it with the Jacksonville Jaguars, if Bortles is decent, and the defense last year, the numbers showed they were pretty good, and even though they were somewhat misleading, that defense looks even better right now. And even though Bradley's not there, all he did the first few years at the helm was build up a defense. Now all those guys are starting to come into play. They can run the football. Jacksonville's going to be dangerous this year. They are not going to go 3-13 in 2017. I'll tell you that much.
All right, we finish out the division tomorrow with the Tennessee Titans. Money time, play of the day. Back to the Blue Jays and Red Sox, Teddy. What are we doing?
Well, let's take a look. Game number 9-15, 9-16. Let's take Boston and Toronto over 9.5. We're talking about two pitchers that are primed to give up dingers on a hot, hazy, humid night in Beantown. Look for the Red Sox and the Blue Jays to go over the total. Again, game number 9-15, 9-16. Boston, Toronto over. That's our play of the day.
All right, Tuesday will be fun. More bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Maybe a Phil Ivey update. Plus, Kershaw on the mound for the Red Hot Dodgers on SportsBit. Good to be back. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com. Thanks for watching.